Folks, welcome back to So Bad It's Good, presented by Betches Media. Today, I am so excited to talk to our guest. He has been involved in some of the best songs of all time. I'm talking Halo by Beyonce. I'm talking SOS by Rihanna. He has worked with pretty much every artist ever. His own company, Secret Music, is helping mentor the next generation of songwriters. He's just had this amazing career. There are Eminem dalliances in there. Caras Flowers, which later became Maroon's 5. He has kind of been with everybody out there in the music industry. The one, the only Evan Kid Bogart. Welcome to the show.
Yay! I love that I've worked with everyone. I think that's amazing.
You really have. Like, if you go through, I was going through every music artist you've worked with, and it goes for pages and pages and pages.
Yeah.
And I was kind of wondering how you got started in all of this, because this is kind of in your blood, because your dad, Neil Bogart, founded Casablanca Records back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, also it's funny, like sometimes someone will be like, such and such artist. And I'm like, oh, I work with them. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like, I totally forgot I worked with them until somebody. I have honestly I feel honestly really blessed and grateful. I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of amazingly talented people, and continue to this day to get to work with a lot of amazingly talented people. So I don't know. I'm just lucky, I guess. But
well, I think it's way more than luck, because, you know, I mean, just even break it down from like kind of a DNA level of how you actually make a song. Like people don't understand how songs are put together, or say like Halo, which I think is in everybody knows Halo, period. Like even my buddy Steve was like, I'm talking to the writer of Halo. And he was like, no way. Cause we always will joke about Halo, cause he played it at his wedding. How did that even come to be, Halo?
I mean, that one in itself was, all of these songs, they kind of like, every time you try to write a hit song, you never write a hit song. Like that's me, when you set out to try to write a hit, that's like the worst way to try to write a hit. I think they all just come because the universe aligns in some way and it's the right moment. And that's why I always tell songwriters, like don't stress out. Like your moment happens when your moment happens. Like you just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other, right? You got to just keep the faith, keep writing with people you love for projects that you love. Like just be present and be in the moment. And I think this was one of those moments, right? Like this was like a friend of mine who's a very, very successful artist in his own right, and songwriter and producer, named Ryan Tedder.
Ryan Tedder from One Republic?
Yeah, right. So Ryan and his band One Republic were on tour, and he ruptured his Achilles and had to cancel his tour, and had to fly back to LA. And his first day back in LA, I went over to his place to just hang out, and he insisted we go write something, and he got up on his crutches and, hobbled into his second bedroom. And back when he was in the apartment era of his life, and which is been many years since Ryan's been in an apartment era in his life. And we hobbled into his second bedroom, which was his home studio. And, he was like, they're looking for a love song for Beyonce. And we kind of sat there and we had this kind of debate about like, what would somebody at the level of Beyonce and Jay-Z would want to say to each other that like is actually deeply meaningful to people who are like so incredibly private, and also, so larger than life. Like, and we had this thought, like safety, like that privacy, that feeling of like, I'm with somebody who understands me and that I feel comfortable with and I feel safe with. And at the time we were listening to this album by an artist named Ray LaMontagne, and he had a song called, Ray, right? So he had on that first album, he had a song called Shelter. And we were like, man, like, you will shelter me and I will shelter you. Like, that's like what somebody like Jay-Z and Beyonce would want to hear from each other. And we were like, what is a great way to say that? Like, embrace somebody and really wrap their arms around them. And as I was kind of looking through my like concepts that I keep, and I always keep this list of like thousands of like concepts or one or two line lyrics. Like, you just never know like what's going to inspire you. So you just think about things all the time and you just jot them down and you just come back to them. And I was going through this list and my finger landed on the word Halo just as Ryan hit these like angelic pads on his keyboard. And we just looked at each other and we were like, yeah. And 3 hours later, the whole song was done in 3 hours.
Well, so first off, I mean, the fact that if Ryan didn't rupture his Achilles, this might not have ever happened, which is so bizarre.
Yeah. So that's what I mean, though, right? So many people wake up every day and like, I got to go write a hit. I got to go write a hit. And it's like your friend ruptures an Achilles, has to cancel a tour, comes back. You happen to go over there. He insists we write something. Like it's just, all the things that have to snowball in order for that to even take place, to even write the song. And then let alone like Beyonce having to like it, then wanting to record.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Like, so you do this in 3 hours, and then what's how does that work in the music industry of like, does a lot of artists then want it? I mean, like, is Beyonce the first one you go to? And because I think a lot of the misconception is Beyonce wrote it potentially.
Yeah, so we wrote it with Beyonce in mind. And she also, put her spin on it. She did some tweaks to it afterwards. But like when we wrote it, we pitched it to the gentleman named Jay Brown, who was running the, Jay-Z's company. As one of Jay-Z's best friends, they grew up together or whatever. So he's been Jay-Z's like right hand from day one. And an hour later, Jay Brown's like, hold this for Beyonce. Like, don't play this for anyone else. We want it. So, we certainly would have in a normal situation sent it out to many people, right? Because we knew it was something special. But we had written it with Beyonce in mind. So we just sent it to Beyonce. Now, had they come back and said it's not right for us, we would have then sent it to 20 other people. In fact, there's a lot of rumors around that song. Like it was for this person, it was for that person, this and that.
Yeah, Leona Lewis, I heard, was like one that was potentially.
So actually, the story with that is about a month later, after we were told, don't play this for anybody, we want it for Beyonce, we just haven't heard back from anyone. So Ryan and I kind of getting like a little antsy, and he calls Simon Cowell or emails Simon Cowell probably. And he's like, I have this song. It's on hold with a really big A-list artist. If for some reason they don't take it, maybe you'd be interested in it for Leona Lewis. And he's like, send it to me. So he sends it to him. And then of course, Simon's like, I need this song. And you can't have this song because it's on hold with this other A-list artist. But if they don't take it, he said, well, I have to have it. You can't have it. He's like, but you can have it if they don't take it. And then of course, Beyonce ended up cutting it. So it didn't end up going to Leona. But the word got out there that it was originally for Leona. It wasn't. It was Leona she had slot 2. Had Beyonce decided not to take Halo, it probably would have been at Leona Lewis.
Is there a demo somewhere with you and Ryan Tedder singing Halo? Is there like a
demo online? Yeah, of Ryan singing it. He demoed it. It's online. You can find it. Just Google it. Google Ryan Tedder Halo demo. You can hear the original version. Yeah. It's in a different key. Beyonce dropped the key. And there's also the original bridge that we wrote for the song, which she removed and did her like opera, incredible, genius, brilliant opera singing in the bridge. And you'll actually hear in our original bridge, we kind of like pay homage to Ray LaMontagne. We sing a little bit of like a Shelter nod, tip of the hat in the bridge. But she removed it. Yeah.
I mean, I think of you as like a craftsman. So it's very interesting. I was thinking about like writers, like Tarantino wrote that part in Pulp Fiction for John Travolta. When you wrote this for Beyonce and you got to hear her sing it, what is that feeling like?
So I get this phone call. My manager calls me and says, do you want to hear the mix of this? So she cuts the song. You're not there when she cuts the song. She has her own like team of vocal producers and engineers. She does it privately, right? And we of course didn't know. She dropped the key. She removed the bridge. Like she did things to the song. We don't even know that exists until we hear the final version of it. It's very private, right? And so I get a phone call from my manager and says, do you want to hear the mix of the song? And I said, yeah, of course. And he said, drive to Record Plant right now in Hollywood. Spike Stent just mixed it. He'll play it for you. So I drove over there and I walked into like their big room, the massive SSL room, and it's just Spike in this massive board, multi-million-dollar studio, legendary studio. And he presses play and leaves the room. And it's just me sitting in front of this like multi-million-dollar console. these
The best speakers in the world.
And all of a sudden the song comes on and it's her singing the song. And I'm just sitting there by myself in this room, bawling, just crying my eyes out, listening to her sing. It was like the song was alive. It was alive. It took a new life that it didn't have before. It was amazing.
See, I love that you can actually get emotional from the way we get emotional as listeners. And I was thinking about today we have the Spotify Wrapped where everybody's music gets put out there, what your top artists were for the year. And
my streams went up.
I was wondering who your top artists are, and also how has it changed?
Well, top artists are, but they give you a songwriter Spotify Wrapped, and it tells you how many streams of your songs that you've written were streamed in the last year. And I was really excited to see that last year my streams were like 900 something million for all of in 1 year, just in last year. My streams this year are 1.3 billion.
Holy shit.
My streams went up like almost half a billion. Is it pretty good?
That's pretty good, man. Congratulations.
I was stoked. I was like, oh wow, this is cool. Like people are really listening to my songs this year.
When you started out to now streaming, I always talk to the audience about how we never knew that Spotify, these things that we would have an entire music library in our pockets. How is that? Because I used to think about like how romantic it was to go chase down music or afford to buy music. So listen to it.
Kids these days have no clue what they're missing out on. I don't want to sound like, it's the old guy, but like back in my day, we used to buy oversized boxes for CDs.
Yeah, I know. The CD
but by the way, why they did that is because the retailers had the shelving for vinyl and they didn't want to change the sizing. So they made the record labels make the CD cases as long as the vinyl so that they would line up with the vinyl shelving. That's why there was that ridiculous 60% of a CD pack.
Okay.
So stupid. Anyway.
I totally remember that, but I never knew that.
Yeah. But, going to a record store to buy a record the day it comes out. There's something so romantic about that. And the artwork and the credits and the whole thing. Like, I sound like my parents when I talk about it. I'm like, you old fogey, shut up.
No, I was trying to tell, like, you would like go to your friend's house and whatever they had, it would turn you on to that or whatever was in your parents' collection.
Oh my
God. That's how I was like familiar with like Michael Bolton because my mom loved Michael Bolton. But like then it was just you were at the mercy of whatever was around you.
I also worked with Michael Bolton.
Well, listen, my mom, rest in peace. But my God, that was her. I've never seen my mom turned on by a man that much since my dad. Like I had to take her to 3 Michael Bolton.
I've never been turned on by a man other than Michael. So it's but I wrote a song with him and a friend of mine, Eminem, for this movie called Fathers and Daughters. And we were writing the song and man, he is a relentlessly meticulous songwriter who will bring you back in to do session over session over session over session just to get a word right. He's very, very serious about his craft. But I remember him going into the booth and the minute he started singing the song, I was like, that's Michael Bolton. Like his voice is so, you're in the room with Michael Bolton and you're writing with Michael Bolton. But the minute he starts singing on the microphone, you're like, wait, when did Michael Bolton get here? That's incredible. That's Michael Bolton. Like it's so good. It's so findable. Like it's really good. Anyway, yeah. But such a nice guy, like the sweetest human ever.
Have you ever written a song? I mean, like you've written so many songs for other people. Has there ever been a song, and I don't know if you're able to admit this, but like Beyonce took it and even made it like, more than you thought it could be potentially. Are there ever artists that you're like, they did not do our song justice? They did not hit it. No, does that ever happen?
Yeah, for sure. Or not even just artists too, like producers. Like you write a song and then like the producer goes away to work on it and he comes back and you're like, yeah, that's not good anymore.
Yeah, because the magic can be taken away.
Ironically, my first cut ever was this song SOS by Rihanna. And the first time I heard it few months before it exploded everywhere, right? Like the first time I heard it was with her voice on it. We were kind of like, me and the producer were like, why does she say words like that? Like her like accent is like, it's like such a strange dialect. And at the time, people don't realize, but like there wasn't really a lot of like people with island accents singing in English on the radio. There wasn't any really, other than her, and like she was more of a club artist. But you'd have like Sean Paul and Shaggy and people who were like singing in patois. And then you would have like Britney Spears and the Pussycat Dolls and like people who were just straight pop singers. But you didn't really have like a Britney Spears or the Pussycat Dolls who sounded like Sean Paul or Shaggy. So you didn't have this combination. She was kind of the first. And so it was interesting to hear how she would pronounce certain words. And at first we were like, oh man, she's ruining the song. Like we actually thought that. Well, yeah. And then of course the song was this massive #1 song. And we're like, now when I listen to the demo, the original demo, I'm like, oh, that's just so boring and terrible. Like she added such like a nuance to it that only Rihanna's voice can do. You know, it's like,
well, the song, she has a nuance, but the song itself is very incredibly nuanced. And I know you've told this story before, but for the audience, I think this is going to blow you away. The lyrics for SOS, is it true that they're just lyrics from 80s hit songs that you strung together because you thought it would be really unique?
Not lyrics, song titles.
Yeah, like Take On Me by Aha. And
yeah, I was working on this song and I got to like the second half of this second verse. And I was like, honestly, what would be interesting to do or say here? Like, I feel like I've said it all. Like you've gotten to this point in the song. You're like, I feel like I've already conveyed the message. I'm not sure how to continue to convey this message anymore. And so I was racking my brain trying to figure out like, what could I say here? And then I had this like, oh, what if I took other 80s hits and I strung the song titles together to form sentences? I wonder if I could do that. So I pulled up all of these, charts, Billboard charts from the 80s, and started trying to mix and match titles to see if I could form sentences that also made sense for the theme of the song. Like they also had to make sense within the context of the song. Be like, random like, man in the mirror. Like, wait, what? Like, it couldn't just be like that. It had to actually make sense in the context of the song. So I did that, and no one ever noticed until recently. When I mentioned
I was like,
interview,
I was like, there's no
people
way.
were like, that's amazing. And I'm like, you guys didn't know that? Like, that's crazy.
No, it's wild that that's escaped us for so long that never came out, because I was like, that's really kind of brilliant in a certain way. And I was wondering how many, is that a trick that not that specific trick, but when you're not feeling, not motivated is the word, but inspired, do you throw games like that at yourself a lot in the process of creating art?
I've done that a couple times with respect to like movies. I'll take inspiration from movies or sometimes books. I'll spend like days at like bookstores, like skimming through books for like storylines, concepts, things that I can, that reminds me of this one time in my life. Like, oh, okay, cool. Like, you just look for inspiration everywhere, like sitting around in like a coffee shop and listening to people talk, and like, you hear people overhearing, eavesdropping on people telling stories about their lives, and you're like, that's a cool idea for a song, But on a movie side of things, separately, like I had this other Beyonce song on that same album that Halo was on, another song called Hello, and I promise you, I did not consciously write a song called Halo and Hello on the same album. They just happened to be the same album written by the same guy, but the payoff line, the hook line in Hello is "You Had Me at Hello," which obviously we took from Jerry Maguire. And then I had another single. From on an artist named Brandy, which was called "Departed," which is called "Right Here, Departed," which is not actually about the mafia infiltrating the police in Boston. That's not what the song's about. But it's not the story about.
Yeah, do you have a song called "Killers of the Flower Moon"? Yeah,
but it's but it was about losing someone, and we kind of took the title from The Departed as well. So like sometimes you take, you borrow from other things that inspire you and influence you. And in this case, I was writing a song with a Tainted Love sample, and I thought, this inspires me to my love for. I'm obsessed. By the way, my entire writing style, like my entire love of music, is like 80s pop music, 90s hip hop. So like the combination of the two. So I love 80s pop music, and I will defend 80s music. Even people think it's cheesy. I'm like, you're tripping. Just play any of those songs on guitar or piano, and it's like some of the best crafted songwriting ever. But
so you took that from the Soft Cell, Tainted Love?
Yeah. I mean, to the point that I couldn't figure out how to get from the pre-chorus into the chorus. It was driving me crazy. So I was like, you know what? They're going to take so much of the publishing of the song anyway. I might as well just say, you got me tossing and turning, can't sleep at night. And so I did. And so that's the one part of Tainted Love that's actually in the song. It's the line that gets me from the pre-chorus into the chorus in SOS.
That's insane. That's so awesome. I want to jump back in time, but I first want to talk about your actual company, Seeker Music. And so this is your own company where you actually work with new artists and things like that. I mean, how do you go about that? Like, what is the music scene like today? And how do you, like, what makes you decide to invest in somebody? Like, what do you look for with your company?
So Seeker is both. Seeker's a publishing company and a record company. We sign and develop talent. And also we're afforded the luxury of acquiring older catalogs as well, and being able to work with songs and records and artists from yesteryear, that normally you wouldn't get to because they're from an era before you, or, you just didn't get a chance to work with them when you were working with them. So we kind of have both, right? But there's no difference the way I look at them, right? I look at them all first and foremost with the lens of passion. Do I love it? Right? Do I feel connected to it? I know a lot of people are like, oh, do you have a big TikTok following? Or what's, how are you building your fan base and things like that? And I appreciate that. Like, I understand that we live in a data-driven world, an analytical world, but for me, I've only ever had success when my heart's in it 100%. And so I have to, when I sign somebody or when I buy a catalog, it has to be something that I love first and foremost. It has to be something that I uniquely feel like me and my team have a strategy for. Even if I love it and I don't feel like we know what to do with it, I would still not do it because I feel like we're just wasting everyone's time. And so for me, those are like the first key things. When I'm looking at an artist or a writer, I want them to have a perspective that's unique. I don't care I don't want them to sound like something else. I don't care if they're, have a song featuring another artist. Like, I don't care if they have a big following on TikTok. For me, it's all about do they have a perspective that's unique, that I feel like it's authentic, and that people will connect with what they're saying. They're going to make people feel a certain way. And and generally speaking, they're making me feel a certain way. So I already, that comes across right away. And it's the same thing when we're looking at acquiring catalogs. Like, are these songs that I wish I wrote? Are these projects that I would have given anything to be alive 10 years earlier to work on? And I think everything has to be seen through those lenses, through that prism. Otherwise, it doesn't work for me. It may work for other people, and go with God if you could do it another way. But for me, I've only ever been successful by putting my heart before anything else.
Well, I mean, that's truly inspiring. But I mean, when you talk about old catalogs, are you talking about like Drama Rama? Are you talking about like Concrete Blonde? Like what kind of catalogs are you buying?
Now you're just making me want to look those up to see if they sold already, because now I want to buy it. We've acquired Christopher Cross's catalogs, which
Dude, did you watch the Yacht Rock documentary this weekend?
I did watch the Yacht Rock documentary, of course. So we've acquired Christopher Cross's catalog. We've acquired Charlotte Cathy from the Go-Go's, her catalog. She obviously wrote We Got the Beat. We've done deals with like Rem the Jewels on the hip hop side of things. Lots of big songwriters: Mozella, John Ryan, John Bellion, Ruth Ann, Sam Waters. Like, all these people have written so many songs that Mozella wrote Wrecking Ball. We acquired a catalog that had a song called Tipsy by an artist named Jaquan, which has now become Shabuzi's, a bar song, which is so now we have a decent chunk of what is now the biggest number one song in Billboard history. And so, we're buying culturally relevant things that we love, that we grew up listening to, that we wish we were a part of, or that inspired us to be creators in the first place. And it's paying dividends because we're making smart bets.
Well, dude, I hats off to the Christopher Cross one. I just heard him open for Toto at the Hollywood Bowl,
Yeah.
a month ago.
Yeah.
And it was just, I grew up with my parents listening to that so much, but man, he still sounds beautiful and his songs can make you cry immediately.
Chris is amazing. I also love what I love about when he plays live too, is it's not just like he's playing from the record. Like he creates these like 7-8 minute long versions of these songs. And like the musicianship is so tight. And like he brings the best musicians out with him because he is such a killer musician, guitarist, right? I mean, like he was like, at one point back in the day, like thought of as like the best guitarist from Texas. It was like him and like, I think like Stevie Ray, like battling as like the most badass guitarists in Texas. He still lives in Austin. Chris is amazing. He is a forever icon. But also we have like the Go-Go's, they're reuniting to play Coachella next year.
That's what they're on the Coachella lineup this year, which I'm like, thank God they're doing some throwbacks again at Coachella. That's much needed.
Yeah, and then we have all these like amazing songs in the catalog, like from like people like DMX and Tupac and Eminem and.
Well, you worked with Tupac, right? You worked with Tupac right before he died, right?
I did. That was my first job ever. I worked at Interscope when I was a kid, and
that was Jimmy Iovine at the time at Interscope, right?
Yeah, Jimmy Iovine. I worked for a gentleman who was the president of the company named Tom Wally. And Tom actually signed Tupac in the early 90s to Interscope before Death Row, and put out 3 Tupac records and a Tupac group record called Thug Life and a few other things. So Tom was like Tom basically discovered Tupac, and then of course he had signed with Death Row. And I worked with Tom on the Interscope releases, pre Death Row and then post mortem.
Can you tell the story about you're an intern, I believe, at the time, maybe for Interscope, and you helped discover Eminem?
Yeah, so I was working on that Tupac project, the one after he had passed away, his first posthumous album, which was called "Are You Still Down?" Remember Me, and I was like, it was the first album I ever worked on. I was learning how it all worked, and I played hooky one day from the studio, and because a friend called, who was DJing this freestyle contest in Inglewood, California. And I went down there and just sat there and watched, Eminem very like 8 Mile, like battling people at this rap battle called the Rap Olympics. And approached him afterwards. He actually lost in the finals. And I approached him afterwards and got his, it was like a sampler tape of his upcoming EP from him and his then manager who was there, and spent the next 5 or 6 months just like top of my lungs screaming to anyone who would listen to me at Interscope, trying to get anyone to get interested in this thing. And he'd have like an article in like the Source magazine, like wallpaper the A&R department with it. Like I was probably incredibly annoying about it. Everybody probably hated me. Every A&R.
But you have to be, right? You have to be when you believe in something.
I had never believed in anything before, like I believed in it. I never believed in anything. It was the first time I ever brought anything into anywhere. And so every A&R person passed at Interscope. There wasn't one person at Interscope who was like, I love this, let's try to sign it. Like everyone gave me an excuse on why we shouldn't sign it. And it was just by luck that the weekend that Eminem came into town, I basically forced a demo tape, a compilation of songs from his EP and previous album, into Jimmy's cassette satchel. Jimmy would take home like a satchel.
Jimmy's cassette player?
No, he had this like bag that would sit at his assistant's desk. And all week long, A&R guys would come up and they'd drop cassettes in there they want Jimmy to listen to of bands that they're interested in. And then Jimmy would take, his security guard would grab the bag and cinch it and take it home with him. And who knows? They'd sit on the floor at Jimmy's house. I have no idea if Jimmy listens to them ever or not. But I knew that the bag existed. And I took a shot. Put the cassette in there and just by happenstance, Dre happened to be over at Jimmy's house, took it out of the bag, put it on, listen to it. Again, it's like an Achilles tearing, right?
Ryan
Like,
Tedder. Yeah.
it's an Achilles tearing. What are the odds that Dre just happened to pull the tape out of the bag, listen to it? Eminem happened to be in town that weekend, come in for a meeting on Monday, deal gets done.
Damn. And then the rest is history.
Well, there was a lot of other bumps along the way. Trying to get look for real. Like, Eminem was unlike anything else that anybody had ever heard, and that's kind of been a through story for me. And a lot of the successes I've had with artists or writers is like people who are really kind of left of center and who don't necessarily conform to what other people are doing. And there was nothing like Eminem in the world at that time, and I don't think anybody knew what to do with it. I mean, "Hi, My Name Is" certainly wasn't a song that you could easily fit into a radio playlist or format. It was kind of like, what is this? Is this rap? Is this pop? It's like, what's this herky jerky beat? Like, it's weird, right? And I think what he's saying, like, who says that? Like, Hi Kids do like Primus? Like, who starts a song that way, right? And so, like, I think that they didn't know what to do with it. The genius of them deciding to shoot the video and then going to MTV with the video and letting MTV break the record. It was the first time a video broke a song. Like, MTV played that video so much and it was so well loved that radio was forced to play it. Like, it wasn't the other way around. They would have never broken it going to radio. And leading with the visual and Eminem as Bill Clinton and Marilyn Manson, and I was like, as a ventriloquist dummy sitting on George Mirasan's knee, like leading with all of that was the genius of how they broke that project and launched Eminem. I mean, that record gets shelved if it wasn't for that video. We never even hear about it.
Has TikTok taken the place of MTV in the way that like MTV used to break artists? Is that really now kind of TikTok's like balling game?
Sure. I mean, I think and obviously it was YouTube before. I mean, like, I think definitely the bite-sized short form content, community building through content has definitely taken the place of MTV, or any sort of visual platform. I think it's there's a lot of other places that are breaking artists these days as well, or giving artists an opportunity to build a fan base or build a relationship with their audience. Not just TikTok, other, lots of music creator platforms, FanLab, or like, gaming streaming platforms like Twitch, or just even community building platforms like Discord, right? Like people building Discord communities and having this one-on-one relationship with their fans. But certainly TikTok is definitely, and Snap and other, Reels and Shorts and other short form content is definitely dominated of late, of where people get to see, things like that, or follow their favorite artists and see the visuals that they're putting out. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to say TikTok breaks an artist. I think TikTok gives an artist a moment, and then if the artist and their team are smart enough to know what to do with that moment, it could help launch something.
I was thinking of that Tommy Richmond had a song on TikTok that I was like,
it could break a song. I'm not sure it breaks an artist.
Got it.
Like, and there's a lot of artists that have moments on TikTok and then you never hear from them ever again, or they have a song that goes crazy on TikTok, they get a massive record deal and they can never follow it up. There's definitely the Tommy Richmonds. There's people like that who transcend, and then hopefully they have a career going forward. But for every one of those, there's thousands of others who have a fleeting moment on the platform and don't know how to grab it and do anything with
it. As a kid, I mean, what was the dream as a kid? Because you're an intern at one point. Like, when did you know, or when did you even want to write songs? How did you know you could write a song?
The dream as a kid was to be a rapper. Yeah. When I was in sixth grade.
Well, you're Little Pumpkin, so I mean, come on.
Yeah. When I was in sixth grade, I thought I was Mike D. And when I was in eighth grade, I thought I was in A Tribe Called Quest. So like, I definitely thought
You
it was
always had taste.
maybe it was
You always had taste.
Yeah. I did a session once with Ali Shaheed Muhammad from A Tribe Called Quest, and I remember like everyone left the room, and it was just me and him, and I unzipped my hoodie to show him I was wearing a Low End Theory t-shirt, and I was like, and then he was like, my girl's favorite song is Halo, and we were like instant friends. But like I certainly thought that's what I want. I mean, I don't know if I ever thought that was like a career, but I definitely wanted to be. That's what I wanted to make music. I wanted to rap, and I wanted to produce, and that's what I did in high school. I was doing all of that, and then at a certain point, realized that I wasn't going to do that, and simultaneously,
was there a sadness in realizing you? I mean, or were you on to this next thing that made you so happy?
I don't know. I don't know if it was a sadness, just more of like a acceptance. But I think I was interning Interscope. I was in the mailroom at Interscope when I actually legitimately tried to get myself a deal, shopped a demo. And then a year later, when the Eminem thing went down, it was kind of like, oh, right. Yeah, I don't have, like, I'm good. I still think I'm good, but I'm not that. I don't have the perspective, like I talked about, like something unique. I sounded like I fit in as a cog in the wheel of like 90s Queens hip hop, right? Eminem sounded like he was going to change the world.
It was new.
It's a different thing.
Yeah. The other story that I'm really interested in, just because I think a lot of people don't realize, Maroon 5, obviously a huge band. It used to be called Caras Flowers when they were in high school, and you managed Caras Flowers for a minute. You guys were friends
for a hot minute. Yeah, but I went to school with Adam. We went to the same school since like kindergarten. And then, we got into high school. I was friendly with like all of like the band guys, the music guys, the rap guys, like, doing my own thing. Like, and so the early version of Caras Flowers had they were playing out together as one of the many, half a dozen school bands, high school bands. And I would be the guy who would like go to like the Troubadour and get like, tickets to like, pay for play. That I could like sell 100 of these tickets to the kids at school. Like 4 bands could play at the Troubadour, but they were one of the bands. And then as we got older and, Caras Flowers ended up getting a deal with, I think it was Reprise and put out a record. They had a single called like Soap Disco, which like did okay. And then when I was coming out of Interscope later on in like the late 90s, I got into management. And I had partnered with a gentleman named Jordan Feldstein, who is
rest in peace. Jonah's brother too. Jonah Hill's brother.
His older brother, yeah. And when I grew up with them, the Feldsteins in my family go back to before any of us were alive. Like they go back to like the New York years. And my mom, is still tight with Sharon and Richie Feldstein, the parents, so, I knew them growing up, and Jordan and I have known each other for a long time, and we both in the music industry, and we ended up partnering to do a management company together. Another friend of mine named Walt Taylor from the Bay, called Bat Management. And around the same time, Adam had reached out to Jordan and was like, we're working on this new sound. You guys should come check it out. And I remember Jordan and I going to the El Rey. They were opening for maybe it was Phantom Planet, or I think they were doing a show there. And we sat outside in the car and they started playing us these demos. And I was like, what have you guys been listening to? And they're like, we've been listening to like a lot of Power 106, like, hip hop radio and like this and that, like, cause it was like super unique. And again, didn't sound like anything else that was happening at that time. Right. Like this was like when we shopped the Caras Flowers demos, the early Maroon 5 demos, which was like Sunday Morning and like, Shiver. Like there were songs that are on the album that are on these demos, right? Like the radio was like Limp Bizkit, right? Like Korn, right? Yeah. And so there was nothing that sounded like Maroon 5. Like that was like, what? And so when we shopped with them, every record label passed. every record label except for one small independent label who had an independent deal through BMG as a distributor with an upstream to Clive Davis's label, J Records. And it was a label called Octone Records, a gentleman named James Diener and his partners, David and Ben. And they're the only ones who made an offer. Literally the only company.
Wow.
And so, I mean, I guess we're taking that deal. And yeah, they went into Can-Am Studios and they made the Maroon record. It wasn't even Maroon 5 yet. They hadn't added James yet. They added James. They couldn't clear the name Maroon.
James Valentine?
They added a 5 to the
Maroon.
Yeah, Maroon 5. Now it's like Maroon 9 or something. I think there's like so many of them or something. I don't know how many of them like PJ Morton's in the band now. Like everyone's in the band now. But it was originally it was like, you know, Jesse and Mickey and Adam were the original ones, and their original drummer Ryan Dusick. Yeah, and then James Valentine and I remember hearing This Love and Harder to Breathe. Those are like two of the last songs they did for the album. Where they weren't on the demo, those two songs. That's the first two singles.
Really? Those are the two breakouts, right?
Yeah. Well, and then of course Sunday Mornings was a big hit too, and that was on the demo. That was the first song on the demo. That was the first song. I remember standing at a label showcase for Interscope Records, which is the label they're on now. Which is they've had so much success on Interscope, but at the time when Interscope passed, I remember a very very senior executive leading over to another very senior executive and just basically saying, "This sounds like a Jamiroquai ripoff. Let's go." And they walked out. And me and Jordan were standing right behind them, and we heard the whole conversation, and they just walked out. And then years later, of course, when they came out of their deal with BMG, Diener brought Octone and Maroon over to Interscope, and they've had massive success over there as well, which is just like irony since Interscope passed on them originally. But it just happens.
I mean, does it blow you away though to think about the group that you came up with? How many of you guys, yourself included, went on to make like a huge impact in the music and entertainment world?
Kind of, but kind of not, because there were so many people that I grew up with whose parents were in the entertainment world. I don't know, so you look. There's also friends of mine who are parents who are in the entertainment world who have famously flamed out and done nothing in their lives. Don't hate me if you're listening to this and you're one of them. But you know who you are. but like, you know, you had like just in my elementary school class, like, so you had like Jordan Feldstein, who was like a year above me, and like Adam Levine, who was a year below me, and like Jonah, who was like a year below him. And I feel like I want to say in Adam's class was Jake Gyllenhaal, and I feel like either in Jordan's class or the year above Jordan was Maggie Gyllenhaal, and like, right, and like in my class was like Maurice White's son was in my class, Neil Diamond's son was in my class, Michael Eisner when he was running Disney's son was in my class, Don Passman's son was in my class, like Ted Field, who started Interscope with Jimmy, his daughter was in my class, Linda Obst, who just recently passed away, his son was in her son was in my class, like, you know, and that's just the world I grew up in, was around all these. I had no idea who their parents were. Like, it's like the craziest thing ever. Like, I always say, like, I remember like being on like skiing vacations with the Azofs. Like, I had no idea who Irving Azoff was.
Irving Azoff.
8-year-old kid, you know, like carpooled with his kids, Allison and Jennifer, to school every day. You know, it's like,
I'm severely geeking out. And by the way, any music lover listening to this, you are severely geeking out as well, because I mean, I was thinking about like, you know, your parents, like, dude, your dad like had T-Rex on his label. Didn't your mom like manage Kiss at a point?
Yeah. My mom discovered Kiss, you know, like,
I mean, it's insane.
Yeah. I mean, but you know, the other insanity of it was, you know, my dad passed away when I was 4 in 1982. And so my mom had gotten out of the music business a couple years earlier to be a mom. You know, obviously was my dad's wife and support system, and, you know, and running Casablanca and then Boardwalk before he passed away. But I think, you know, she started obviously shortly after, he passed, she started the Neil Bogart Fund, with the TJ Martell Foundation, and ran this charity for cancer and AIDS research for more than 20 years, and just dedicated her life to philanthropy and charity and trying to cure diseases so that it never happened again. And so I kind of didn't grow up in the music industry, right? Like, people are always like, oh, nepotism. I'm like, no one gave me anything. Like, in fact, I was kind of hit with this double-edged sword where, like, people thought people were giving me something, but I wasn't getting anything in return. So I had this like stigma against me, like, oh, he's just like he's a Nepo baby. And I'm like,
Yeah.
But I'm not getting any of the benefits for you calling me that. Like, no one's actually hooking me up with anything. Like, no, like, my dad wasn't in the industry anymore. My mom wasn't in the industry anymore. My mom had friends who were in the industry, but like, they weren't doing anything for me. I just wanted to be in the industry, and I was kind of left to fend for my own, but with this like stigma, like, he must be getting a leg up because, and I wasn't. So it was kind of getting hit from both sides.
Double-edged sword. Yeah. No, I mean, it's wild, man. By the way, this is the Bogart Foundation, which does so much amazing work. I used to volunteer because my buddy Susie used to work for the Bogart Foundation back in the day. And there's so much good work that came out of there. I mean, this is like 15 years ago, but like, I remember children's hospitals, all of this amazing, amazing work. As we start winding down here, because I could talk to you forever, your credits also include so many of like the pop princesses, like the Britney Spears, the Demi Lovato, like, and today we had Spotify Wrapped, and like, you have the Chappell Roan, Taylor Swift, Sabrina Carpenter. I mean, what is your take on like the quote unquote pop princess?
What is my take on a pop princess? I mean, look, all those people you just named have been working at it. I mean, look, Taylor's obviously already Taylor, but like Sabrina and Chappell, who have had these incredible breakout years, right? Like, they've been at it for a long time. Like, I wrote with Sabrina probably 10 years ago.
She has like 5 albums that people don't realize.
Chappell's been trying to get on for at least several years. She's been kicking around doing sessions, making records. All these people have been in record deals and dropped and into new record deals now. Like, there's so many artists who broke this year, including these new pop princesses. But also the Shabuzis and the Tommies and the Bensons and all these other people, Doechis and all these people who are nominated for Best New Artist at the Grammys, like, who have tried to have careers, didn't make it, and this is their second bite or third or fourth bite at the apple, and they're finally making it. And I think what's really cool about these pop princesses is that they're really engaged in their creation. They're co-writing their songs. They know who they are. They know what they want to put forth. I think we've kind of entered this new golden era of pop princess, like the Britneys back in the day, right? But I think in the difference is these pop princesses they're businesswomen. They understand what they're doing. They understand what their style is, what their image is. They're crafting it. Someone's not giving it to them, right? It's not like, hey, go dress up like a schoolgirl and do a video in a school, right? It's like Chappell is authentically Chappell, and Sabrina is authentically Sabrina, and they're calling their shots, and that's exciting. It's exciting to see that pop music, which is very, very, it's still like, you see all these people like, trolls online who are like, you're just pop throwaway garbage, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, like, they've been at it forever. They've refined their songwriting, refined their looks, refined their teams, refined their art. They know what they want their live show to be like. They played hundreds, if not thousands of shows to get here. They're as seasoned as the band who's been on the road kicking it around trying to make it, but they're just doing pop music. And I think that's cool that pop music has these people that are at the forefront of it, who have a depth to them and an authenticity to them that maybe traditionally and historically people don't associate it with pop music.
Yeah. I'm so excited to see what Chappell Roan does next. Like, I'm so excited to see where she wants to go next, because does she want to go bigger? Does she want to go Fiona Apple? Does she where is she going to go from here? Because, I mean, she even did that country song on SNL that was a new song, and I thought she killed that. So it was great.
She's an incredible songwriter. She can do whatever she wants. That's what's so cool about it. And same thing's like a Billie Eilish, right? Like, can constantly evolve, right? And do whatever she wants, right? And I think, I think it says something about the other thing is like, look at all the big artists from this year. They were pretty much they're brand new to the world, but they've been around for a while. But it wasn't the same old artists over and over again. It wasn't like, oh, Katy Perry put out a new album, Ariana Grande put out a new album. They did, but they weren't the ones dominating the charts this year, right? It was all of the new kids on the block, not the new kids on the block. Although that would be cool if it was the new kids on the block.
Yeah.
Shout out to
That's right. And KOTB for life.
Forever, man. I went to a New Kids on the Block. This is a really good story as a way to end this. Wearing like a Jordan Knight like small kind of like hat, like top hat, and like a bolo tie with a leather vest. Not my finest moment. But I knew I knew all the moves from the Hangin' Tough video.
Me too. I grew up on a street in Kansas with all girls, and I wanted to look like Joey McIntyre so bad because the girl I had a crush on loved Joey McIntyre. So I like curled out my hair even bigger than. Anyways, dude. Finally, what's the last thing you wrote that gave yourself chills, and what's the last song you listened to that you got chills from?
Oh my God! I actually wrote.
Did you write something this week that you already blew you away?
I wrote a song. And it's probably 3 weeks ago now, 3 weeks ago now, with a Scottish artist writer named Honor, O-N-R, who was in town. And we wrote this song that it brought me to tears. Like it almost made me cry. Like I was so moved by it because I felt so personally connected to it. It was a song about it was really about my relationship with my wife. I mean, I didn't convey that to Honor when we were writing it, but really it was about being in the moment, and there's so many distractions in life, and there's so many things that take us away from it, but it's like I just want to find 1 minute to be in the moment. And it's just the melodies we came up with and the lyrics are just so real, and I don't know, it was pretty special. We'll see if it finds a home. We're pitching it, so we'll see.
But even if it doesn't, you had that moment, and you got to talk about being in the moment.
It found a home in my car.
Yeah, we found love in a homely place.
Hundreds of songs that have found homes only in my car. So,
dude, I'm begging you to write a book. Please write a book, please. And when you do, please come back and talk to me about it.
I cannot confirm nor deny that may or may not be happening right now.
It needs to. It really needs to. There's nobody that is like, I wish I could keep talking to you, man, but thank you so much for spending all this time today. I'm going to link his Instagram. I'm going to link, this dude does so much good work that you are going to just like go and Google and YouTube, and you're going to be blown away. I hope I was able to do you justice today because you had an amazing. So
this was so fun. Thank you so much.
Thanks, dude. Was that okay?